Hello and welcome to Cryptid by State, Nebraska. After a bit of a break, I have returned, and with me I bring another entry in our Cryptid by State series. Nebraska has a lot of things to offer visitors, but it doesn't seem like, after an extensive search, it may be the safest place to live if you have a fear of unknown beasts, i.e. cryptids. I was able to uncover a handful of such beasts, but not as many as you may think. However, we should still have an enjoyable adventure ahead of us today. So join me once again as we continue our Cryptid Family Road Trip as we travel from our previous location of South Dakota and head right next door to our destination of Nebraska. Originally, there were various Native American tribes found in Nebraska, including the Pawnee, Lakota Sioux, Arapaho, Cheyenne, and Omaha. Then, in 1682, French explorer René Robert Cavelier traveled to the area and claimed all the area for France under the name of Louisiana Territory. In 1720, the Spanish sent explorer Pedro de Villasur to claim the land, but him and his party of 34 men were killed due to conflict with the Pawnee tribe. In 1803, the United States acquired the area from the French with the Louisiana Purchase, and a good chunk of the U.S. was now considered part of the Missouri Territory. Interestingly, American explorer John C. Fremont was sent to map the areas in 1842. During this venture, he utilized the Oto tribe word for designating the Platte River, and it was called Nebraska, or Land of Flat Waters. Over time, more and more territories were designated, effectively chipping away at the massive Missouri Territory. At one time, portions were part of the Colorado Territory, then it became part of the Dakota Territory. While still not the shape of the state we know today, Nebraska requested to become a state on February 8, 1867. The bill was sent to President Andrew Johnson, who in turn vetoed the move. However, for the first time in history, Nebraska was admitted to the Union when the House of Congress overrode that veto with a supermajority. On March 1, 1867, Nebraska officially became the 37th state to join the Union. Nebraska's flag does seem to have a history that indicates its current design isn't very popular with its residents. As such, through the years to as recent as 2017, there have been quite a few attempts to change what it looks like, but each time fails. Although I must note that its design is set up in a way that is very similar to many others that we have looked at in the past. It simply is the state seal of gold and silver color on a blue background. This design was created on March 28, 1925, and it was the 48th state to adopt a state flag. However, it was considered a banner until July 16, 1963, when it officially was called the state flag. Looking at the flag, we see the words Great Seal of Nebraska with the date of March 1, 1867. Inside this, we see many images of landscape and the ways of life. Starting at the bottom, we have a blacksmith with a hammer and anvil, indicating the importance of blacksmithing. To the left, we find a cabin and a sheaf of wheat. This symbolizes the settlers and agriculture of the area. Behind this is the Missouri River with a steamship traversing the waters. Most prominently depicted is the Rocky Mountains, which includes a train traveling across them. While some of the details may seem vague, it all becomes clear when it is noted that the whole seal was created with the intent of showing the importance of agriculture, industry, and transport. Finally, above all this is the motto of equality before law. Originally it was created with the idea of settlers having the right to public land, but eventually it was included with the ideals of abolition of slavery. So, let's look at the cryptids that are said to reside here. As stated in the introduction, I was able to uncover around 10 different creatures to talk about, and they range widely amongst all type of habitat. Starting off, this state has some weird reports of odd creatures flying about the sky. I found an interesting anecdote discussing many sightings of a flying man-sized being. Of course, my mind immediately goes to Mothman with this one. Apparently, one such event was said to have happened in 1922, when a hunter saw a man-sized creature of a black color emerge from a large cylinder. Later, the same creature was spotted by others in the town. Interestingly, a report on April 2020 states that 2 Native American residents at the Warrior Apartments in Winnebago saw a similar being. While no real detail is given, they claim that the creature was flying low as if it was wanting not to be seen. As it got overhead, the witnesses claimed it was the size of a human, and they saw its leathery wings silently flapping. They specifically mentioned that even though the Mothman isn't known to be found around their reservation, it certainly looked like what is described as. There are a couple of oddities that I wasn't sure if I should include them here, since they may be more extraterrestrial, but its reoccurrence is what sealed the deal. In Falls City in 1956, a man known as John claimed he encountered a strange creature flying overhead. What really makes this odd is that the 15-foot-long wings appeared to be made of some shiny aluminum-like material, and they were controlled by a square device on the creature's chest. It was unclear if these wings were attached like a backpack or actually grafted to the body. The creature's skin was brown and weathered, looking like leather. Its eyes were extremely large and evil-looking, and he states that the face had a demonic appearance. The being let out a malevolent hiss and shot off into the sky. What makes this sighting extremely odd and worthy of a spot on this list is that a similar creature was seen in Wisconsin, but it was said to have a mouthful of pointy teeth. Not only this, but stories describing the same being, with silver wings and control box in the chest, were reported from Chehalis, Washington in 1948. Other such encounters are found in New York, Brazil, Japan, and Mexico. While the cyborg aspect of the story is weird, I can't help but think how similar it is to the beings known as rebobs from Napa Valley in California. They are thought to be escaped animals from a lab that infused monkeys with robotics, and they can also fly. I am not saying that this is the answer to this sighting, but it does show that similar situations have happened. Before leaving the air, I want to include a fun one that is more likely only an urban legend. We have a story that is straight out of some science fiction movies, like the ants from Them, or the locusts from The Beginning of the End. With this, we have the beings known as radioactive hornets. Reports of this creature emerged in the 1940s, following the use of nuclear bombs on Nagasaki and Hiroshima. Due to the radiation, the stories emerged that it mutated hornets, and they inexplicably found their way to Nebraska. These giant radioactive hornets were said to be highly aggressive and possessed a venom that would cause necrosis, organ failure, and death to any human within hours of being stung. This story then re-emerged in 2013, where the insects were said to be the product of the Fukushima disaster, which, coincidentally, many believe Mothman may have played a part in. Oddly enough, these same hornets then traveled to Nebraska and started to terrorize people once again. I wonder what these hornets from Asia have against only Nebraska. From all accounts, these stories are false, and were made up for slow news days. However, it is odd that this type of story would continually be brought up through the years. Is there something to these reports, or is it simply an old urban legend that refuses to die? Next up, we have a very popular cryptid, but one that isn't known to be found in Nebraska. This would be a dogman. This report comes to us from the northeastern part of the state and occurred in April of 2019. Daryl and his two friends were out fishing when they decided to set up camp for the night. Around 1 a.m., Daryl awoke by the sound of loud footsteps and grunting. After waiting for a while, he left his tent and found that his other friends had heard the same thing. However, they all just assumed it was simply a bear. Either way, they figured it was best if they stayed awake in case the animal returned. Not long after this, they were startled by a loud banging noise coming from the left of them. This was then followed up by more grunting and then growling sounds. Whatever this thing was, it kept itself hidden in the shadows, and it appeared to be very aware of the men being there. Suddenly, the beast let out a loud howling noise, which made it obvious that this thing wasn't a bear. All the while, the being was walking around the perimeter of the men's camp. The friends turned on their lanterns and put more wood on the fire to try to keep the area illuminated. Daryl even grabbed his pistol, even though he doubted it would be effective. Oddly enough, the light didn't scare the creature off. In fact, it seemed to make it angrier. One of the men, named Toby, claimed that he caught sight of the creature and said it looked like a werewolf. The other two men laughed at this description, and just then the beast let out another loud howl. It was then figured that this creature was actively trying to scare the men, since it wasn't trying to be quiet at all. At one point, Daryl followed the sound with his eyes, and he saw the being step out into the light for a moment. He says that it was in fact a dogman. It stood 7 to 8 feet tall, had whitish gray-colored fur, a wolf-like head with pointy ears, and long, sharp fangs. Its arms were long and muscular, it had a narrow waist, and its eyes glowed a greenish-yellow color in the light. At this sight, he fired his pistol at the creature's feet, which caused it to jump back. Not long after this, it appeared to move on, but the group could still hear it crashing around in the forest. While not a dog man, I did find an article from Omaha that a woman named Mary caught a photograph of a strange dog-like creature near her property on June 13, 2006. Many think that it is possibly just a pit bull due to the color, although I find the tail odd. Most, but not all, dogs of that breed don't have a tail, and the shape of it is weird. The mouth looks strange for any dog that I have seen. Now, I could see this possibly being a mountain lion, but according to Mary's description, she claims it was completely dog-like. I'll be interested in hearing your thoughts and opinions. Now, let's move to the water for a creature that is mired in controversy and is very confusing. The being goes by two names, the Walgren Lake Monster and the Alkali Lake Monster. While this difference could be as simple as Alkali Lake now being known as Walgren Lake, the story goes much deeper than that. According to all reports, in August of 1921, a man named J.A. Johnson claimed that while out fishing with his friend, the pair were startled to see that they weren't alone in the water. 20 yards out, the men saw a dull brown or gray-colored creature emerge that was estimated to be 40 feet long. It was said to resemble an alligator, but much larger, and it had large eyes, nostrils, and a single horn extended from its forehead. They claim that once the creature caught sight of the men, it let out a roar and dove under the water with a slap of its tail. Oddly enough, people think that he saw an abnormally large beaver, but outside of the tail slap, none of the other details match that at all. Some even state that Native American lore actually talks about a similar creature that is known to take livestock from the shore. Now, moving on. Only a year later, sightings began, mainly due to a newspaper article about it, of another beast swimming in the lake. Now, the creature was seen walking on land and would spew a green liquid that could disorient its prey. The horn was removed from the description, and in its place it had large frills coming from its head, and looked very much like a mud puppy. This story branched out, and many newspapers from all over the world ran with the details. The catch here is the man who originally wrote the story was John G. Mayer, a reporter known to make up outlandish stories to sell newspapers. In his words, there is a demand for stories and not enough things to write about. The interesting thing here is that while this version is obviously a hoax, I mean, look at this photo provided as proof, this doesn't discount the first sighting. To this day, people from the town of Hay Springs still recognize the first encounter. For posterity, I am including an honorable mention section, but not for a lack of time. First on the list, as always, would be Bigfoot. What this state lacks in other encounters, it makes up for with the abnormally high amount of Sasquatch sightings. Thunderbird sightings are deep-rooted in the native lore here, and there have been some other similar sightings. There have been quite a few reports of what can only be described as hyenas spotted roaming about. This isn't the only state to have these encounters, so it does make for an interesting story. There is a report from 1958 of a supposed phantom kangaroo near Grand Island, but there wasn't anything ghostly about it. While odd, it very easily could have been an escaped zoo animal. In ending this, I hope you enjoyed it, and that I made Nebraska proud. With my research, I found that this state has way more ghost and UFO sightings, so this is encouraging for when we revisit the area in those series. In fact, this state is said to be home to an encounter that is considered the Nebraska Roswell, so that should be interesting to look into. As always, remember to keep voting for which state you would like to see next in our Cryptid by State series. Vermont recently has been given quite a boost, but with only 11 states left, anything could happen. I'm thinking about doing some different things with my channel, so I can keep content being uploaded regularly, along with keeping up with my new job schedule. Don't worry, it is all cryptid or paranormal based ideas. Overwhelmingly, you all let me know that you would be interested in seeing my version of reactions to paranormal videos, so count on that coming very soon. I was curious if you would be interested in seeing some videos where I play cryptid or paranormal type of games. I don't want to be a gaming channel at all, but I recently saw a cool game about hunting Nessie and thought that it might be fun. I already have a game about hunting a chupacabra, which they call the rake, and I have Signal Simulator, where you find aliens. Again, I don't want to be a video game channel, but I thought it would be fun, and it would fill in the space where I don't have the time to produce extensively researched videos like the Cryptid by State or Region series. I'm just throwing out ideas here, so let me know. If you haven't yet done so, do please consider subscribing to my channel for more content like this. Also, it would be greatly appreciated if you share my videos with someone you know who may enjoy this type of genre. With that, be safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Later!